Ruth Langsford told Eamonn Holmes, "We can't," before sudden change of heart. Former This Morning presenting duo Eamonn Holmes and Ruth Langsford, who separated last year after 14 years of marriage, initially disagreed over a beloved member of their family. Television presenter Ruth Langsford had to be convinced by her ex-husband Eamonn Holmes when they debated adding a dog to their family, according to the GB News host. Eamonn and Ruth, both 65, separated last year after 14 years of marriage and have since led separate lives on and off screen. However, one uniting presence has been their 17-year-old border collie, Maggie, whom Eamonn is very close to, but wishes he could spend more time with. Unfortunately, the star's various health ailments mean he can't be as mobile with Maggie, so Loose Women host Ruth has become their dog's main carer. Eamonn has been opening up about how Maggie came to be part of his and Ruth's family, alongside their son, Jack. He told The Times, "When my son, Jack, was 6, he went on and on about getting a dog and Ruth said, 'We just can't look after a dog. We don't have time.'" The star then met Maggie, who reminded him of his childhood pet, Candy. He recalled, "Then one day I was asked to open an extension at Harefield Dogs Trust and that's where I met this beautiful dog, about 6 months old, who was very much like Candy, and she made it very clear that she'd taken a shine to me. A few weeks later we went back, and the dog was gone. Nowhere to be seen. Then, just as we were leaving, a dog walker appeared with a dog who came bounding in, ran straight up to Jack, and jumped up on his chest. Jack started laughing and fell down on his knees and I said, 'That's the dog I was looking for.' The walker told me, 'This is Magdalene, Maggie.'" The former This Morning presenting duo today are divided over how they feel about the eventual end of Maggie's life, with Eamonn saying he wants her to be buried, not cremated, a feeling that isn't shared by Ruth. Speaking about how he feels about his reduced relationship with Maggie, he said, "Not well. Being Irish and Catholic, I talk a lot about death and have talked to Ruth about what we do when Maggie dies. She says, 'Why do you want to talk about that? Why are you so morbid about things? When she dies, I don't want her to go to the vets and get cremated, I want to put her in a cemetery. Then we could visit her and get comfort from that in the way we get comfort visiting my mother and father and grandparents at the cemetery.' When I suggested that, Ruth said, 'We're not doing that. She just can't deal with it, but I think because I'm more incapacitated and because Maggie lives with her, she'll have the final say.' Eamonn also admitted that, if it were an option, he'd like to have Maggie to be preserved by taxidermy after she dies. He explained, 'I would very much like to do that and continue that connection with her, albeit in a glass case, because she is the most special creature outside of my children that has come into my life.' Part of the reason for Eamonn's inability to care for Maggie as much as he would like is down to his health struggles in recent years. These have become so bad that he now spends some time in a wheelchair. Chronic pain, dislodged discs in his back, and a double hip replacement are among the issues the GB News presenter has suffered from. Speaking earlier this year about his condition on Instagram, Eamonn said, "Even when the sun shines there's pain. Sometimes I feel I'll never beat this disc immobility, but I'm determined to have a life. So pray for me, help me or get out of the way, social media haters." TV presenters Eamonn Holmes and Penny Smith reunite for the first time in 20 years on GB News. They were a match made in heaven for TV viewers in the 90s, now Eamonn Holmes and Penny Smith will reunite for the first time in 20 years on GB News Breakfast. The two presenters, who last appeared on air together 2 decades ago when she joined Eamonn on his final GMTV program, will be back on screen together for 2 days next week. The duo both worked on the show from 1993, and they are excited to reunite on GB News for the August 18 and 19 broadcasts. Eamonn said in a statement, "I'm delighted to be working with Penny again after all these years. I'm sure all our viewers and listeners on GB News Breakfast will love her." Penny promised to balance the latest news with a healthy dose of fun. She added, "I'm thrilled to be working with Eamonn again, and what a joy to be waking up the nation once more, bringing them the latest news with a healthy dose of fun along the way. It's just like old times, only better." Ben Briscoe, GB News head of programming, predicted razor-sharp insight, and along with warmth and good humor. He commented, "I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Penny to GB News Breakfast. Reuniting her with Eamonn Holmes after 20 years promises the perfect mix of warmth, wit, humor and razor-sharp insight, just what our viewers love to wake up to." Penny joined GMTV as the main newsreader in April 1993, and later became the main anchor for the Reuters NewsHour, with her role increasing over the years. She remained on the show until June 2010, after 17 years on air. She said in a statement at the time, "It's an ideal time for me to say goodbye to early mornings. Now that the format has changed, I have taken the plunge and am moving on." Away from the morning program, she has appeared on the likes of Never Mind the Buzzcocks, Jonathan Creek, Just the Two of Us and more. Eamonn has been on GB News since January 2022, following his departure from This Morning in 2021 after 15 years on the famous ITV sofa. He worked on GMTV from 1993 to 2005, before moving on to Sunrise for the next 11 years. Eamonn Holmes left, delighted, after reuniting with former colleague after 20 years. The presenter will be joined by his former GMTV co-host on Good Morning Britain next week. Eamonn Holmes was left, delighted, after reuniting with one of his former colleagues after 20 years on GB News Breakfast. The Belfast native has been on GB News since January 2022, following his departure from This Morning in 2021 after 15 years on the famous ITV sofa. Additionally, Eamonn worked on GMTV from 1993 to 2005, before moving on to Sunrise on Sky News for the next 11 years. During his 12-year stint on GMTV, Eamonn struck up a brilliant working relationship with Penny Smith, who joined him on his final episode of the program. The duo, who worked on the show from 1993, will be back on screens together for the first time in 2 decades for 2 episodes of GB News on August 18 and 19. Eamonn reacted to the news in a statement, saying, "I'm delighted to be working with Penny again after all these years. I'm sure all our viewers and listeners on GB News Breakfast will love her. Looking forward to being sitting beside Eamonn once again." Penny promised to balance the latest news with a healthy dose of fun. She added, "I'm thrilled to be working with Eamonn again, and what a joy to be waking up the nation once more, bringing them the latest news with a healthy dose of fun along the way. It's just like old times, only better." Predicting razor-sharp insight, Ben Briscoe, GB News head of programming, said the pair will also have warmth and good humor. He commented, "I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Penny to GB News Breakfast. Reuniting her with Eamonn Holmes after 20 years promises the perfect mix of warmth, wit, humor and razor-sharp insight, just what our viewers love to wake up to." Penny joined GMTV as the main newsreader in April 1993, and later became the main anchor for the Reuters NewsHour, with her role increasing over the years. She remained on the show until June 2010, after 17 years on air, saying in a statement at the time, "It's an ideal time for me to say goodbye to early mornings. Now that the format has changed, I have taken the plunge and am moving on." Away from the morning program, she has appeared on the likes of Never Mind the Buzzcocks, Jonathan Creek, Just the Two of Us and more. Eamonn Holmes gushes over Unconditional love, who changed him after marriage split. GB News host Eamonn Holmes said while he feels unconditional love towards his female companion, his disability has got in the way of their relationship. Eamonn Holmes has opened up about the unconditional love he feels for his dog Maggie, whom he rescued alongside his former wife Ruth Langsford. The ex-couple adopted the pooch from Dogs Trust charity 15 years ago, and since then, fans have seen her grow through various social media posts. Following their separation last year, Maggie has stayed with Ruth at their former family home in Surrey. Speaking about their four-legged friend, Eamonn said that while their connection remains strong, his mobility struggles have got in the way of caring for Maggie. "There's only one word I'd use and that's love," he said of their bond. "She changed me, changed my life and changed my perception towards people. I am now disabled. I'm in a wheelchair. I've not been able to walk for 2 years, and this has affected my relationship with Maggie for the worse. Obviously the dog is low down in the ground, so I can't bend down. I can't lift her up. I can't take her on walks." Chatting to The Times, Eamonn confirmed that Ruth is Maggie's main carer, though noted that their dog still recognizes him. "Although I can't do what I want to do with her, my relationship with her supersedes that," he continued. Eamonn, 65, went on to describe his affection for Maggie as pure and unadulterated, something he claims he's never felt before. "It's love that I've often looked for in human beings, and suddenly you're getting it back, this unconditional love. There's just an empathy," he concluded. Eamonn and Ruth announced their split in May last year, after 14 years of marriage. The GB News presenter has since found love again with Katie Alexander, 43, a relationship counselor, while Ruth remains single for the time being. In addition to Maggie, They have a 23-year-old son named Jack, and Eamonn also has 3 other children from his first marriage. Opening up about their separation for the first time in February, Ruth told Woman and Home magazine, "I'm quite fine being on my own, but not forever. Relationship breakdowns are very difficult, but you deal with it and have to move on. You can let yourself crumble or you pick yourself up and get on with life. It's a choice." Ruth went on to say that she wasn't delighted about their marriage ending, but had come to terms with the situation. Previously discussing their shared love for Maggie in a joint interview, Eamonn made a cryptic joke about Ruth loving their pet dog more than him. He told The Telegraph, "If my wife loved me the way my dog loves me, I'd be a very happy man." Ruth chimed in, "We love her so much. You come home and you've had a tough day, a long day, whatever, and I see her and she sees me, or Eamonn, and you see her tail going, and then she runs off, and I know it's because she's getting a toy from her basket to bring you. It's just the loveliest thing. And you forget everything you were worried about, annoyed about, cross about.